Hello, San Jose Country Club members. I'm your executive chef, John Kirby, and I am starting a series of instructional cooking videos of recipes that are easy for you to follow along and make at home. Today's recipe is grilled vegetable bruschetta. The ingredients you'll need for this recipe: shiitake mushrooms, zucchini, yellow squash, fresh basil, flat leaf Italian parsley, green onion, a loaf of French bread, Roma tomatoes, green bell pepper, red bell pepper, fresh garlic, Italian dressing, fat-free, salt, pepper, and a couple of gallon bags. We're going to chop and marinate all of our vegetables. We're going to start with our bell peppers. Bottom, top. When I cut a bell pepper, I always cut the top, the bottom, and then I look at it as if it's a house with 4 walls. This is very helpful in a sense to help keep my board clean while I'm cutting. So if you see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, if you take your knife and go down each wall, then you get all the seed and you can just throw it out. All right. So that's the green. Now we'll do the red. Again, bottom, top, looking at it as if it's a house, 4 walls, 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, the seeds come out, very little to no mess on your board. On the tops, we'll take these pieces off. And throw this away. We'll leave the bottoms the way they are. On the peppers, this white piece in the center here is called the rib. So depending on what the application of the vegetable is, most of the time you want to take this out. Some recipes call for it to be left in. For this, we're going to take it out. You take your knife, flatten it up against it, and just slide it across. And we'll do the same with the red. All right, and we'll put our peppers in our gallon bag and move on to the next vegetable. Next, we will work with the mushrooms. With the mushrooms, all you really need to do is take the stem out. And then put them in the bag whole to be marinated. Next, we'll work with the zucchini and the squash. So in the recipe, you'll see that it calls to cut the zucchini and the squash lengthwise and de-seed. So in order to do so, you're going to take the top and the bottom off, cut it down the center lengthwise, and then it says quarter and de-seed. So now you have these two, now you're going to quarter it. So you take it straight across, straight across. Okay, so now they're quartered. In order to de-seed, all you have to do is take the side of your knife up against the side of the vegetable and cut the seeds out. In certain recipes, sometimes you'll leave the seeds in. For this one, you want to take them out. With the yellow squash, it's a little different. You're going to take the neck of the squash, cut it off, and then you're going to cut the bottom like we did with the zucchini. On the neck of the squash, as you can see, there are no seeds. There's not a lot right there in the middle. So you're still going to cut that top right there, and then you're going to keep the neck in contact and just take it like that. Same thing as the zucchini. We're going to take the yellow squash, cut it, and then quarter it. So now we have 4 quarters, and then we're still going to de-seed it. Same concept. Take your knife, drag it down the seeds, pull them out. Then that's trash. So when you're de-seeding the yellow squash, the same as zucchini, you're looking for this right here. You see that line where all the seeds are? You're gonna use your knife and go right up against that edge and then just drag across to pull them out. Now we're gonna add our zucchini and squash to our bag. And move on to the Roma tomatoes. For the Roma tomatoes, we're gonna cut the top off, and then we're just going to cut them in half and leave them just like that. The reason we're doing that is so they don't break down on the grill. So with the herbs, we're gonna start with our Italian flat leaf parsley. I do like to use Italian flat leaf as it does have a different flavor profile than the curly parsley. I feel the curly parsley doesn't have as much taste and is really more just for garnish. Italian flat leaf has a nice earthy tone to it, which really adds to this dish. You can use your knife to shave a little bit off of each side of your bunch. This will save you some time as opposed to trying to just pick every leaf off. Chopping herbs, you want to make sure that you are chopping them and not bruising them. In order to do so, with parsley, you want to make sure that you're taking the parsley and bunching it up in your fingers and then using your knuckle as a guide. Now you want to make sure that what you're doing is sliding through each time and not just smashing. When you start smashing and bruising the herbs, all the oil and the essence of the herb comes out on your cutting board and doesn't really go into your dish. So you want to make sure you're just kind of coming through and make sure you're chopping all the way through each time. As you get to the end of each bunch, you want to bunch it back up again and do it once again until you get to the size of the chop that you want. For this, we don't need it to be really fine. A rough chop is good. All right, now that we have that chop, let's add it to our bag of vegetables, and we will move on to the green onion. Recipe with the green onion, it calls for it to be cut on a bias. This is just a fancy culinary term for at an angle. So in order to do so, you're gonna take your knife, put the tip down on the board, and then move against your knuckles back and forth. I'm gonna throw the tips. So normally you save these in the restaurant because we make vegetable stocks, chicken stocks, beef stocks, veal stocks. But we're just gonna throw them in the bag with our marinade because everything is flavored. So let's add this to the bag. And now we're gonna move on to the basil. In the recipe, you'll see that the basil calls for chiffonade. Chiffonade is also a culinary term that is used basically just to say rolled up and chopped. We're gonna save just a little bit for garnish. So we're gonna lay these leaves out flat, and you can stack them on top of each other. You don't wanna do too many at a time on top of each other because you will bruise the vegetables instead of chopping them, okay? You're gonna turn them and roll them. All right, and then with your knife, straight down. Make sure it's cutting through. Now what I was saying earlier about bruising the vegetables as opposed to chopping them, especially in a chiffonade, you would know real fast because everything would smash instead of cut straight through. So, all right, now that it's chiffonade, we're just gonna give it a little rough chop. Again, without smashing, just chopping. Now we're gonna add this to our bag of vegetables to be marinated. We're gonna chop our garlic cloves. The easiest way to do that is to take your knife, lay it down flat on there, being careful not to hit the edge with your fingers and cut yourself, and smash the garlic down. This releases all the oils. Then you can take it and just chop. You can also do more than one piece at a time. All right, we're gonna give it a little rough chop. All right, then we're gonna add to the bag along with the Italian dressing. And as the recipe says, you can put it in the fridge for about 15 minutes after marinated, or you can let it rest overnight for the maximum flavor. So we've poured our Italian in. Now we're gonna take it, close the bag. Make sure it's tight. You wanna make sure you leave a little space to let the air out. Then seal it all the way. And then now you wanna massage it and get all the vegetables marinated in the Italian. Get the herbs and the garlic moving around. Even in the bag, this is a pretty dish. So we're gonna put this in the fridge and let it marinate. Once I've had time to marinate and the garlic and the herbs have come together, we're gonna move to the grill. So we move the vegetables over to a mixing bowl. The reason being is we wanna give it one last good stir and get all the herbs and the garlic and the Italian dressing mixed up. If you see in the recipe, I put fat-free. One of the reasons I said fat-free Italian dressing, for two reasons. The Italian's got a nice zippy tang to it, but also too, it doesn't flame up when it hits the... All right, we're gonna spray the grill down with some non-stick spray. Then we're gonna start laying our vegetables down. We're gonna start with the zucchini and squash. We wanna try and keep all the vegetables that are like sizes by each other so they grill and finish at the same time. At this time, we'll go ahead and salt and pepper. Next, we'll move on to the peppers. After that, we'll move on to the mushrooms and the Roma tomatoes. Now, one of the things you can do with this recipe is it does call for the vegetables to be grilled. If you don't have a grill, you can always use the same marinade and roast these vegetables in the oven. You're going to do so 350 for 20 to 25 minutes or until the vegetables are soft. Okay. So we're going to save our marinade because we're going to use it again later. Give me real quick. Salt and pepper. Make sure we salt and pepper everything. All right, we're going to get it nice, let it get nice and charred. Then we're going to move it to our sheet pans and let it cool. Really nice grill marks, get a nice char on the vegetables. Vegetables got a nice, good char on them now. It's going to add a lot of flavor. We're going to pull all these off the grill, let them cool. Then we'll chop them up and make our bruschetta topping. All right, so while our vegetables are cooling, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our French loaf and we're going to cut our crostinis. Again, you want to cut these on a bias. And as thick or as thin as you want. It's really up to you, whatever your preference is how much bread you like. I like it right in between. Alright, so now you're going to take your garlic, you're going to rub this down. You're going to do it before and after it comes off the grill. This is going to add a depth of flavor. Then stop it. And now back to the grill. Again, we're going to spray our grill with some non-stick spray. I've got a garlic clove ready. Then we're going to lay our crostinis down and get a nice grill mark on both sides. And as I said, as they come off the grill, I'm going to brush them again with a clove of garlic. So I'd like to see that nice toast on each side. And as I said, when I take them off, I'll brush them again with a clove of garlic. I want them to get nice and crispy around the edges, but I like a little bit of softness still in the middle. Real quick, and while they're still warm, rub them with the garlic. Alright, now that the vegetables have cooled, we're going to chop these, add them to a bowl with a little bit of the reserved marinade for the topping for the bruschetta. So really it's how big or small you want. I'm cutting them about a small dice. That way they fit. I like a little rustic texture. Then once I'm done with this, we'll plate. Now that we have a good chop on all of our vegetables, we're going to add some of the reserved marinade that we saved. As far as how much to put in, you can pretty much make it as wet as you'd like. Just remember that you're putting it on a dry piece of bread that has been grilled, so you don't want it too wet. Just like anything else, people eat with their eyes. So you see you got a lot of nice, vibrant colors, and now we're going to plate. All right, next we're going to take a spoon, mix your topping out up real good, get a nice heaping portion, and put it directly on your crostini. Alright, we're going to move these over to a nice clean plate. Alright, then just garnish with a little green onion right on top.